Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast, where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. And entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions.
Welcome. Episode 3 of the Mortgage Mayhem podcast. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We're back. Back. Hot topics galore. Today's topics, we're going to hit you with Bill Gates' inheritance bombshell, to the rise in foreclosures, digital tithing at church. Today's show is packed with culture, finance, and of course, mayhem. So let's get it started. Like I said, I hope everybody had a good weekend. This weekend, we had a funeral of a great man, Brother Clack, one of my fraternity brothers who did a lot of big things throughout his life. His family, we wish them well. RIP to Brother Clack. Special brother, did a lot for the community, was a part of the government in a lot of different ways. Mr. Clack was a great man. He was a great representative for the city of Flint, and we just wish him and his family, rest in peace to him, and we wish his family nothing but well wishes. Brother Clack, good brother. Seen a lot of my frat brothers. It was good seeing y'all over the weekend. Unfortunately, we hate to meet each other in those kind of circumstances, but nevertheless, it was still good to see everybody. Good to fraternize with brothers real quick. It was definitely a sad occasion, but it was a celebration at the same time. Brother Clack, rest in peace. Let's get this thing jumped off today. We're going to have some fun with it. Last week was, episodes 1 and 2. We got through those two. There's a couple dings there, along with the actual broadcast. I think we've straightened some of those things out. We just look forward to giving you a clean show today, tomorrow. And we just, this is what we're here to do. We're here to just break bread with you guys. All this information that I've gained over the years, I'm just here to give it back. That's what I'm here for. So let's get into it. Let's talk about our boy Bill Gates, right? Bill Gates, we all know who that is. Excuse me, my camera's acting a little crazy. My mic's in the way. So let's get into it. Bill Gates reveals that his children will inherit less than 1% of his $107 billion wealth. That's $107 billion. Billionaire philanthropist Bill Gates has reaffirmed his decision to leave less than 1% of his estimated 101.2 billion fortune to his three children, Jennifer, Rory, and Phoebe Gates. This approach aligns with his long-standing belief that substantial inheritance can hinder personal growth and achievement. In a recent interview on Figuring Out with Raj Shamane podcast, Gates explained that while his children received a quality upbringing and education, he believes that passing down massive wealth would not benefit them. He emphasized the importance of allowing them to build their own careers and find success independently. Gates, who co-founded the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in 2000, views philanthropy as the best use of his resources. He has pledged to donate the vast majority of his wealth to address global challenges such as healthcare, education, and poverty. So Bill Gates looking like, the kiddos. I mean, 1% of 101.2 billion still is a lot of money. Don't get it twisted. So it ain't like when he passed away, he gonna leave them destitute. He just feels like, his kids should be able to make their own way. I'm pretty sure by now he's set them up in a way that they're already doing that. So whatever they receive, whenever he passes away, it is going to be cherry, just cherry on the top. That's all that's going to be. You know what I'm saying? So, to be that lucky to have someone with that much money and influence being able to still be well grounded enough, to put his kids in a position to go get it on their own, even though they got the Gates name, which probably opens up many doors for them, but you still got to put the work in once you get inside the rooms, get inside that door. So I like the fact that Bill is not just turning his kids into some spoiled brats, because none of us want to do that. We all want to leave something behind. It's biblical. But at the same time, we want our kids to be out here doing what they're supposed to be doing in order for them to build their own life. And whatever we decide to leave behind is just, once again, cherry on the top. So I give big ups to Bill Gates. I think that's an honorable move if it's true, which it sounds like it is. But his kids are already set up. I'm sure they already have trust funds. And I'm sure they've been put in positions where their incomes are not lacking at all. So shout outs to Bill Gates. I came across something over the weekend as well, just to, move on. Dr. George Fraser. I don't know if you know who this guy is. This guy is Googling. Dr. George Fraser. He breaks down the crisis of Black family and building wealth. Dr. Fraser highlights troubling statistics around marriage rates and household incomes across racial and ethnic groups in the U.S. The data points to a growing crisis within the African American community, where marriage rates are significantly lower than those of other groups, raising important questions about family structure, economic stability, and long-term generational outcomes. The goal is to spark reflection, deepen understanding, and encourage more conversations about rebuilding strong foundations with Black households. Addressing these challenges is key to shaping a more empowered and unified future. So Dr. George Fraser is pretty much breaking down the statistics that married folks do better than single folks. I've been married, unfortunately, no longer married. But what I find out is that when you do have a partner and you are on the same page and you are building together, it typically ends up being a outstanding financial family dynamic, right? So, you know, I just think divorce is, running rampant through our communities, of course. I don't know why we can't really get along with each other. A lot of folks say, it's bigger than us. It happened way before we got here, and now we're here, and it just tends to, sometimes lapse when it comes to our Black relationships with one another. Um, I know, just going through what I've gone through, I understand on the other side some of the pitfalls that I participated in, in order to not be in that relationship anymore. And I've grown from it. I understand now, what my goals in future relationships need to be. um, it's tough though. You can't just be in these relationships when you're not happy in these relationships. I don't think anyone should have to just stay into something that they're no longer happy being a part of. Not to say that things don't get tough, not to say that, it ain't gonna always be peachy and cream, but I think if you with someone that you genuinely care about, you genuinely love, and you genuinely have some things that you both are, searching and figuring out together. I think all couples should have businesses. Businesses is really the key to it to me. I think, a lot of times when you're in these, relationships, you're depending on one or two incomes, and the incomes are the ones that's pretty much taking care of everything. But what I've grown to understand, that if you got businesses together, then you shouldn't have money problems, because businesses should take care of all your money problems. And whatever you got coming in from your regular, day jobs, that should be icing on the cake. I know I'm, in a situation now where I'm building with someone, and that's exactly what we're doing. And it's just so stress free over here. We don't have to be worried about money. We're making good money. And our businesses are starting to get off the ground, and we're starting to, replace our incomes and replace, the debt that we have. It's just a beautiful thing. So I just think one of the keys to, making sure that you kind of keep everything in perspective and build accordingly is, don't just rely on the everyday incomes. There's so many ways to get money, so many ways to get to that bag. Why would that be the case? And the one thing that I find out, being in business with somebody that you adore, someone that you care about, it's just fun. It's just fun to, wake up and go after something, and both of you guys are on the same page. It just makes for a long lasting, loving relationships, because you're in the trenches with that person. You learn that person's weaknesses, you learn that person's strengths, and you end up being able to build something that not just you and that person are proud of, but the people that around you are proud of as well, because they see that you and that individual are, getting it from the mud, so to speak. So I get it. I know we divorcing each other at a rapid pace, and I don't like it, but sometimes some things just don't work out according to plan, and you have to be brave enough to understand that and know that and move on. Wish everybody well. Don't, sprinkle no hate on nobody. Pray for that person to have a outstanding life, because you want to have an outstanding life. So the key is to stay together, of course. But if you can't find, that to be the case in some of these relationships, that don't mean that you have to stop looking, for the person that you can create, build, and actually have a great life with that individual. And I think a big part of that is having a business that you both can enjoy, both work at on a day-to-day basis, and allow yourself to build generational wealth that way. And then what you find out is when it's time for you to go see your maker, you always have a business to leave to the individual children who could potentially continue to create generational wealth for the next generation. So, although we're divorcing, we are also marrying. And if we are already married and we're not happy, I think, picking up a new opportunity for the family that both you and your significant other can work towards and build upon. It's just a beautiful thing at the end of the day. Yeah, it's tough because everybody has their own egos and everybody feels like they are the ones who are going to be the head of the business in your own mind. But once you get into it, you understand that teamwork makes the dream work, right? Teamwork makes the dream work. So if I was to make a suggestion to kind of help spark and help with getting these divorce rates down, not only would I say find the right person, understand red flags when you witness red flags, and if you're unhappy, become happy by allowing you and that person to go about your business, but just not your business together. And when you find the right one, get in business together. You'll find out that that is a way to strengthen the relationship and also help to get to the bag. That's what I'm finding out on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not just speaking just to be speaking. I'm actually living it day to day. All right. So Dr. George Fraser, Google him. He's a very, very prolific speaker, has a lot of knowledge that I think if you just, check into him, you'll be able to pick up on some things that you can use on your day to day. All right. So George Fraser, Dr. George Fraser, I'm sorry. Guess what? Starting May 7th, you'll need a real ID or passport to fly domestically. And I told you guys, this is just not going to be about mortgages. This is going to be about life stuff as well. So, although we're going to get all into the mortgages and the whole real estate game, but we're also going to talk about current events and life things that I think can help. If you're listening to the show, you may say, oh man, I didn't even know that. You can run out, handle your business, because starting May 7th, you will need a real ID or passport to fly domestically. Look for the gold star or bring your passport. Heads up, travelers, starting May 7th, you will need a real ID compliant driver's license or a valid passport to board domestic flights in the U.S. This new rule is part of the Real ID Act, a federal effort to enhance security and prevent identity fraud. Not your ID doesn't have it. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Not sure if your license qualifies? Check for a gold star in the corner. It's the mark of a real ID. If your ID doesn't have it, you'll need to upgrade at your local DMV or bring your passport to the airport instead. Don't wait until the last minute. Lines will be long and appointments will fill up fast. Plan ahead so you're not grounded. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be up in the airport because you're not paying attention to, what's going on in the news, and you're already set, ready to go on your trip with your family, and you're the one who causes mayhem, because you didn't take care of your business on the front end. So you have until May 7th to go ahead and make that happen for you, your family, your loved ones. Let's get these real IDs. Some people say it's a part of voter suppression. I'm not going to get all off into that. That could be the case. But nevertheless, let's do what we're supposed to do. We're here. There's laws, there's rules. Although sometimes we feel like they could be counting against us, let's not allow them to use us as the guinea pigs. Let's handle our business, get our real IDs, and that way we can move around like we want to move around. All right? Got it. Okay. So next up is what I found to be a little unsettling, to say the least. But, people out here will find different ways in their minds, or they think in their minds that they can get away with crimes. And this particular Detroit native, former CFO, pleads guilty to embezzling over $40 million. William A. Smith, a longtime chief financial officer of the Detroit Riverfront Conservancy, admitted in court to stealing more than $40 million from the organization over the course of a decade. That's $40 million over the course of a decade. The Conservancy, a nonprofit dedicated to revitalizing Detroit's riverfront for public use, was unknowingly funding Smith's lavish lifestyle through a complex web of fraud. From 2012 to 2024, Smith used fake companies, unauthorized credit card spending, and forged documents to funnel millions into his own accounts. He spent the stolen money on luxury goods, travel, and personal expenses, all while deceiving the very organization he was trusted to protect. Smith now faces up to 40 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to wire fraud and money laundering. Smith used fake companies. He used unauthorized credit card spending. And of course, he forged documents. He spent the stolen money on luxury goods, travel, and personal expenses, all while deceiving the very organization that trusted him to protect them. He has agreed to pay over $44 million in restitution. This shocking case highlights not only the depth of Smith's deception, but also the impact such crimes can have on a community-focused institutions that rely on public trust and funding. I mean, what can you say? And this is the crazy thing. I do deals all over the country, y'all. I have a lot of different clients coming my way. And at one point, a couple years ago, this guy came to me and tried to, do a deal. I don't know if it was legit at the time. I'm not sure. But, we were literally looking at moving forward. And for whatever reason, I'm going to say God above, nothing came about the transaction. But I had dialogue with this individual. Seemed to be a good guy. I can't even, say that. I felt like it was something shady going on. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it was or if it wasn't. We didn't end up doing any business, so I can't, really speak on that. But I do recall him coming to us, to do a deal. And the reason I know it was him because he has the famous name Will Smith. So I feel sorry for the conservatory. That's the riverfront. That's Detroit riverfront. Can you imagine what they could have did with $40 million? That's a lot of building. That's a lot of putting people in, place to get jobs. And this guy wanted to, be fly, drive expensive vehicles, live in plush homes. And for what? How do you think you can get away with taking $40 million from someone? What is it that goes through your mind when you took the first dollar and you thought, let me go take $10 more, $100 more, $10,000, $1 million, $10 million, $20 million? Like, what is going through your mind as you're going through that situation? I just can't even imagine. Is it that you're just waiting for the day to come where your ass is going to get caught? Because that's typically what happens. You're not about to scheme and scam somebody out of $40 million and not get caught. I don't even think you can get away with $1 million, $5 million, couple 100,000. But once again, these people, they build up this trust with these organizations. The organizations turn a blind eye because they feel like they've entrusted in you to handle the business of the organization, while every day you're looking these people in their face knowing that you're stealing from them. That's just crazy to me. I don't understand how you can be that greedy to the point where you can't just work for yourself and get to 40 million. If you could take 40 million, if you got the skill set to take 40 million right up under somebody's nose, you should have the skill set to go get you some millions. So, I don't know what's going to happen to this gentleman. I wish that, he would have thought about this before he took the opportunity to take from the community, because when these types of things happen, they don't really, they don't give you no restitution. They bring the hammer down on you. And most people say and think the hammer should be brought down on you. So, Mr. Smith, wherever you are, I know you got a lot on your back. I know you got a lot on your brain right now, but you had a lot on your back and a lot on your brain when you was taking these millions. So, the law will speak. You're innocent until proven guilty, but I'm assuming you're not even that anymore because you pleaded guilty. I'm assuming you did that, so you won't be looking at 40 years because this is an older gentleman. I don't know how many years he's going to get, but if he got 40s, his funeral will be in the jail cell, or however they go about it. When you pass away in jail, that's the fate that he's really up against. I don't know what his family is, thinking or doing right now, but I would say prayers to them unless they were involved, because nobody really expects one day you wake up and your world is in mayhem because of the actions that your loved ones have taken. And a lot of times you just become guilty by association, unfortunately. So I wish Detroit and the Riverfront Conservancy the best, because 40 million just gone, because I'm not sure if they got some of that back, half of that back, any of that back. But, that's a real deep hole to dig yourself out of, especially when you have plans to beautify a city that deserves to be beautified, especially the riverfront. So, we'll see what happens. More to come on that. All right. All right, so let's move on. Texas passed a bill requiring fathers to pay pre-birth child support. The legislation known as SB 942 was approved by the state Senate last Wednesday. Senator Brian Hughes introduced the bill, which mandates retroactive child support starting from the day of conception, not birth. Starting from the date of conception, not birth. So, what does this new law mean in real life terms? Put simply, fathers in Texas could now be required to start paying child support months before a child is even born. KLTV reported Senator Hughes stated his reasoning clearly. The responsibility that a mom is bearing does not begin at birth, but starts months before that. That statement hit hard with many parents and advocates who long pushed for more support during pregnancy. Prenatal care, maternity vitamins, OBGYN visits, and postnatal recovery costs often fall solely on the mother. This bill is designed to address that gap. Here's what the bill outlines. Retroactive support begins at conception, not delivery. Fathers can be required to help with prenatal care costs. Medical and living expenses during the pregnancy may be included. Courts may require proof of paternity before ordering payments. That's good. He added that the difference in child support between conception and birth would not be a lot in comparison to the amount that is already required to be paid after the child's birth. And it recognizes that to the mother that the expenses are definitely real. So what do I think about this? I'm not against it. I get it, because a lot of times, we as men, I'm not going to say a lot of us don't be involved in all of the things that they mention, the prenatal care, medical and living expenses, because, typically if you create a child together, you almost understand that you're going to have to do the necessary things to bring this child into the world. So if you're trying to skip out on that, then they're going to get your ass. Pause. So I would say this bill wakens a lot of men up out here in the world who decides that they're mature enough to lay down with the woman and create a child, but they're not mature enough to handle their business once they find out that a child has been conceived. So I ain't hating on guys. I mean, I get it, sometimes you're not thinking with the right head, unfortunately. You put yourselves in these types of situations where you end up, with child support. You end up not wanting to be involved with the mother. The mother sometimes add to that, of course. But the child didn't ask to be born. You decided with the mother to do whatever it was that you guys were doing in that moment to conceive a child. So you become a part of bringing that child into the world. So you got to, go get you some extra income to make sure that you take care of that child, because, once you get yourself in a situation where a child is involved, then once you get paternity and find out that it's your child, then you got to handle your business. Stop leaving these mothers out here fending for themselves. It just don't make sense. That's why we got so many problems within our culture when it comes to our relationships with our our queens. We got to stop acting like it's not our responsibility when we was, doing everything in our power to put ourselves in a situation to conceive. If you wasn't careful, if you wasn't, practicing safe, consensual sex, then that's you and the mother's problem. And since you both wasn't mature enough to make sure that that was happening, then you both have to become mature enough to make sure you take care of what needs to be taken care of to bring the child into the world, period. You don't get to run. You don't get to hide. You got to take care of your business. Because once again, the children that falls into this category did not ask to be here. So I don't know if the bill is going to pass, but I'm pretty sure if it does, other cities are going to be doing the same thing. Child support is already bad. Brothers getting put in jail for child support. Brothers are literally not, getting jobs because they don't want to pay child support. It's just a stupid racket that's going on out here between, male and females when it comes to this whole, child support thing. And it just needs to stop. It just needs to, be handled in a way where you don't have to necessarily be together, but you do have to make sure that it's an even playing field when it comes to taking care of these kids, period. That's how I feel about it. I'm not saying that this law is of the greatest of laws, but it is a start to help individuals understand that there's repercussions when you don't practice safe sex responsibly. There's repercussions, and this is one of them. So we'll keep our eyes open on that, and I'll report back if anything else comes down the pike. But brothers, it's not a game. It's really not a game. Handle your business, man. Handle your business. Stop putting yourselves in these situations where you have to go through this. Practice safe sexual encounters if you're not prepared to handle the financial responsibility of bringing a child into this world. Period. All right, enough of that. All right, so I seen something that, I was like, wow. So we all grew up in church, right? I know I did. If you grew up in church, you know the deal. When that offering plate comes around, you know what you're supposed to do. Give from the heart and the wallet. But now that most folks don't carry cash, churches are getting creative. A video recently went viral showing church members using credit cards and Apple Google Pay to give their tithes using offering machines, kind of like passing around portable card readers. The post blew up on X with over 1 million views, and people are split and on how they feel about it. Some thinks it's a smart way for churches to meet people where they are financially and digitally. Others are calling it out, saying passing machines in public feels like pressure or guilt tripping. Commenters pointed out that the digital tithing isn't new. Apps like Tidal, Tithe.ly, and Give LIFY have already been helping churches collect donations more easily for years. But the main issue for many isn't the tech, It's how it's being used. So, chat, my friends, I don't really know how to feel about this, to be honest with you. I get it. I mean, it is a digital world. A lot of people don't carry cash. But it seems like it should be a more or less of a out in the open way of doing this. I like how they've been doing it in the past. You can pay your tithes via apps, but to literally be passing around a credit card machine during service to me seems a little insane. So I don't really, like I said, I get it, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It just seemed, even when I looked at the video, it just seemed a bit much. People just passing credit card machines. You don't never know what could happen. There's so many scams out here. People, you could just be in a situation where your credit card information is hijacked, and then what? So, like I said, I get that people are trying to meet people, where they are digitally, in almost a cashless society, but there's ways to do it without these big flimsy credit card machines and everybody's passing it around, swiping their credit cards during the service. We could do better than that. I'm pretty sure. I understand that tithes are important to these churches, offerings are important to these churches, but let's not add to what people have said for years, that churches are all about getting to the bag. And I get it. I understand church has to operate the way that it needs to operate. And a lot of times that comes from the congregation. But don't hot it up. Act like you got some, you know what I'm saying? And whatever happened to just the old way of tithes and offerings, giving your tithes and offerings? That's not good enough anymore because people don't carry cash. Well, if you don't carry cash, handle your business before you get to the church. They have multiple ways that you can pay your tithes and offerings without huge credit card machines being handed around in a church service. It's an eyesore. It only leads to these kind of conversations. You got 1 million people online chiming in about it. So if you got to go through all that, is it really worth it? You're going to get your money one way or the other. Why do we have to go to this extreme? Is my question. So that's what's going on in some of our churches. Some people, like they said, half of the people understood. The other half was like, this is insanity. I'm in the middle. I get it, but at the same time, I think it's a little insane. It's a little bit much. So I haven't been in a church service as of yet. My church, NTC, in Flint, Michigan, Pastor Galloway, he don't do that. He don't roll like that. That's why he is the pastor that he is. So I don't really understand what's going on here. I'm pretty sure he would probably feel the same way, like what is really going on in our churches. We're there to get the word. We're not there to swipe. And if you do swipe, there's traditional ways of doing that without credit card machines going from one aisle to the next. So that's all I got on that. All right. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about, this is a good story. Khadijah Davis is her name. She is an inspiring success story. And look, we're going to be talking about, I like to include like a success story just to give people, the thoughts of it can happen. You don't have to be that special in order for you to do something special. You just have to figure out what that is, get focused, and make it happen. And this is what Khadijah Davis is doing. It's an inspiring success story that is captivating hearts and minds. This phenomenal Black millionaire reached an incredible milestone by earning $1 million in just 90 days with her very lucrative first franchise, Juicy Patties. I like that name, Juicy Patties. Providing that with determination, what I just said, and hard works, dreams can truly become a reality, right? Determination and hard work, dreams can truly become a reality. But our journey doesn't stop there. As a franchise coach and successful multi-franchise owner, Khadijah is on the powerful mission to empower other women to achieve their financial dreams through franchising. I have a couple of fraternity brothers. I'm going to bring them up at some point, but they've taken franchising to a whole nother level. They got into franchising straight out of college. Now these guys are multimillionaires. I don't want to put their business out in the street as far as their money, but their money's long, right? So franchising is a way to get you to that bag. That's what I'm saying. That's what this is all about. Me being able to just plant the seeds. That's it. What you do with them, that's up to you. But I am going to make sure that these seeds are planted, right? So she believes that every woman deserves the opportunity to create her own path to wealth. And she's committed to sharing her invaluable knowledge and resources to help make that happen. By building a supportive community of like-minded women, Khadijah is fostering an environment where everyone can thrive, learn, and grow together. She's not just focused on her own success, she's dedicated to lifting others up and creating a legacy of empowerment. Let's give a round of applause to Khadijah. I just can't let that just go. I mean, not only is she trying to get it herself, but she's setting it up for others to come and get the knowledge, giving back, right? What I'm doing right now, giving back. So, ladies, go find Khadijah Davis at Khadijah Davis, and her name is spelled KHADEJAHDAVIS. That's at Khadijah Davis. It's an inspiring success stories. We're going to constantly be bringing up these success stories. These people I don't know these people's from Adam. I see things I feel can help you, and I'm going to bring it to the forefront, and you can gain knowledge from it in your quest to get to where you're trying to go. That's what we're here for. So shout out to Khadijah Davis, wherever you are. Her first location is in the Detroit area, from what I read. But go on Instagram and find her, ladies and guys. And if you're looking or if you thought about franchising, this may be a person that can help you get to where you're trying to go. Khadijah Davis. All right. All right. Let's talk about some real estate stuff. All right. Home buyer demands approved last week, but tariff turmoils, rising rates, and economic jitters likely to hamper sales. Pending home sales and mortgage applications improved a bit at the start of April, but since then, the back and forth on President Trump's new tariffs policy, rising mortgage rates, and the increased odds of recessions have likely pushed down home buying sentiments. The housing market is under pressure as prospective home buyers and sellers navigate a rapidly shifting economic landscape with President Trump's tariff policy and volatile stock market and the increased chances of a recession exacerbating widespread financial uncertainty. Home buyer demand improved at the start of April. Mortgage purchases application rose 9% during the week ending April 4th on a seasonally adjusted basis. Look, guys, I'm telling you, don't be sitting on the sidelines. When you see an opening and you got your ducks in line, jump out there, because what they're talking about is at the beginning of April, rates were down in the low sixes. And because if you'd have jumped in during that period of time, locked in your rate, you would have been able to get an interest rate in the low sixes. But if you're on the sidelines with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, then with the volatility of the market, Trump doing what Trump does, you can be back in a position where you're watching rates rise back up. So rates are in the low sevens right now, right? So you got to be able to pay attention to what's going on around you in order for you to take advantage of opportunities. Get your head out of Instagram, get your head out of the latest whatever sitcom you're watching on the 8 million channels we have, and pay attention to the things that's important. And housing is important, especially if you're an investor, especially if you're in the market to purchase, you're in the market to sell, because when you sell your home, the buyers want to be in a position to buy your home, because typically no one's coming to the table with just straight cash. They got to go get financing. So if they're looking at low interest rates, then more than likely they're going to jump all over the sale of your home. If they're, I've sold houses, bought houses, sold houses, and you just got to be conscious of what you're doing. You got to be paying attention, because at the end of the day, you know, if you're selling a house for a profit, then these things matter, because you need somebody to buy your house, and nobody's buying houses when the rates are high. They're just not doing it unless they're in desperate need of a house or they fall in love with your home and they would be willing to add thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on their mortgage payments because they end up getting into the market when the rates were a little higher than they should be, right? So, all right. So home buying demand improved at the start of April. Mortgage purchase application rose 9%. During the week ending April 4th on a seasonally adjusted basis, pending home sales posted their smallest decline since the start of 2025, falling just 1.1% year over year. That's partly due to a holiday effect, with Easter falling into the comparable period in 2024. But those number reflects what happened before and in the immediate aftermath of last week's initial tariff announcement, when mortgage rates dipped to a 6-month low and gave home buyers a brief reprieve. The improvement in demand is likely to last. Mortgage rates have since soared, jumping on April 9th to 6.95, their highest levels in 6 weeks. The bounce is due to economic turmoil and the Fed making it clear it's not cutting interest rate more than previously expected. Even before mortgage rates bounce back up, the median monthly mortgage payment was at an all-time high of $2,813. Payments are likely to rise even more in the coming weeks, and that, along with economic instability, may scare off more prospective buyers. You see what I'm saying? Prospective buyers. I just was saying this to you guys. If the rates are low, they will buy your home. If the rates are high, they're going to sit on the sidelines until a reprieve occurs and those rates go down. But those buyers out there, you got to be paying attention, because once you see that, you should keep your mortgage broker, a person like myself, on speed dial, because when that happens, you want to get on the phone and lock in your rate. Lock it in, because once you lock it in, that allows you to have some breathing room. You can complete the transaction, in a number of time, because most lock rates are usually 30 days, some longer. But typically in financing, you can get a loan completed within 30 days if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, including yourself, making sure that you get your broker, loan officer, whoever you're dealing with, the information that's needed to get your deal through underwriting, through closing, things of that nature. So a lot of times what I find out, and once again, I've done millions of loans. And typically they always ask, how long is it going to take? Can we get this done in a certain period of time? And I always say, hey, look, a lot of this is based off of what you bring to the table. This is not my transaction. This is your transaction. So if you take it seriously, and whenever I ask you for something, you get that to me ASAP, and I'm going to give you upfront a list of the items that I need. If you do that, then typically you can get your loan in and out, and you're at title signing on the dotted line within 30 days, if not sooner. We're here to close. I'm a closer. I don't have time I'm not a paper pusher. I collect docs, but I'm there to make sure you get to the finish line. I am a closer. That's what I do. That's my reputation. I don't play around. When a deal hits my desk, I'm off to the races. I'm trying to get it to the closing table ASAP, because that's how we all eat. That's how you continue to build generational wealth. That's how I build generational wealth. So it's important to understand that when you're in a transaction, take it seriously and do what you have to do to make sure that the ball's never in your court. Make the ball always be in my court. Just a little word of wisdom. All right. All right. So tariffs are coming up for the first time. A realtor hosted an open house over the weekend, and some of the younger buyers were concerned about how they're going to impact the housing market, how the tariffs are going to impact the housing market, said Desiree Bourgeau, a Refin premier agent in Detroit. They're hearing the words tariffs and recession, and it's making them nervous that if they buy now, the value of their home will decline, and they don't know whether mortgage rates will go up or down. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, with buyers trying to understand how their purchase would fit into their personal finance and the broader economic puzzle. So yeah, you gotta be an educated seller. You got to be an educated buyer. You have to educate yourself. It's too much information. There's too many ways to educate yourself about the process. Being a buyer, being a seller. You don't have to just rely on your agents. You don't just have to rely on your loan officer, your broker. You have the power to come to the table as educated as a seller or a buyer as the individuals that you're doing business with. That way you don't come to the table green and be taken advantage of. Because that's the worst thing in the world, to know at the end, after you did everything that you were supposed to do, or you didn't do what you were supposed to do to educate yourself, that you were taken advantage of. Because it's a lot of shady individuals that's in this real estate game. A lot of them. So you got to be educated before you start talking about creating generational wealth or just buying a property for you and your family to live in. Educate yourself. It's not hard. It's really not. All right. So Realty.com reports active inventory up 30.3% year over year. What does this mean? On a weekly basis, Realty.com reports the year over year change in active inventory and new listings. On a monthly basis, they report total inventory. For March, Realty.com reported inventory was up 28.5% year over year, but still down 20.2% compared to the 2017 to 2019 same month levels. Now, on a weekly basis, inventory is up 30.3% year over year. Realty.com has monthly and weekly data on the existing home market. Here is their weekly report. Active inventory climbs 30.3% from a year ago. The number of homes actively for sale remains significantly higher than last year, continuing a 74-week streak of annual gains. This year-over-year inventory growth gives buyers more choices and encourages more competitive pricing among sellers. Generally, the number of homes up for sale is still below pre-pandemic norms, and the long-standing supply gap will continue to put pressure on prices in undersupplied areas. New listings, a measure of sellers putting homes up for sale, increased 8.6%. New listings were up 8.6 compared with this time last year, marking the 13th straight week of annual growth. The median list price increased 0.1% year over year. The national median list price was up 0.1% compared with a year ago, marking the first year-over-year increase after 44 weeks of flat or declining prices. However, more data is needed to determine whether this modest growth signals a true turnaround. In particular, recent economics uncertainty may dampen buyers' interest, potentially putting downward pressure on prices. So, guys, what they're saying is that the inventory is out there. If you're looking to buy, there's plenty of houses available. If you're an investor, there's plenty of inventory available. 30%. I have investors all the time. That's one of the biggest things, them not being able to find quality deals. And I always say, look, you got to find a realtor who knows the market. Not a realtor who's looking to put people in homes to live in, but realtors who know how to work with investors and know how to bring investors good deals. So when you're interviewing your realtors, you got to make sure that they have the wherewithal to be able to go out into the marketplace and bring you deals that's going to allow you to make a profit, allow you to continue to build generational wealth, build your portfolio. It's a ton of them out there. You have to interview your realtors. Don't just let them tell you, I can do this or I can do that. Give me some proof. How many investors have you worked with in the past? Who are they? You don't have to, typically they don't want to give you that information or whatnot, but they have to convince you that they know exactly what it is that they're doing, or you shouldn't be doing business with them. This is not a game. You're trying to build generational wealth, and you don't have time to be playing around with someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So make sure, get in my DMs if you need questions to ask, what to ask a realtor. If I'm an investor, I'll help you put that together. If you need me to get on the phone with a realtor to make sure that they know what they're doing, just DM me and I will help you. Because at the end of the day, I want to see everybody win. Okay? So that's what that's about. Rates are going up. Inventory is available, but foreclosures rise in the first quarter as homeowners feel the squeeze. Foreclosure filing surged to start the year with economic uncertainty and the expiration of previous moratoriums weighing on homeowners' minds. Foreclosures filing appeared on 93,953 U.S. properties in the first quarter of 2025, spiking 11.4% from 84,361 3 months earlier, according to real estate data provider Adam. The latest number slid 1.5% on a year-over-year basis from 95,349 and represented 1 in every 1,515 properties in the United States. Following 3 consecutive quarters of decline, foreclosures activity ticked up in the first quarter of 2025 with notable growth in both starts and completion, said Adam CEO Rob Barber in a press release. While levels remain below historical averages, the quarterly growth suggests that some homeowners may be starting to feel the pressure of ongoing economic challenges. However, strong home equity positions in many markets continue to help buffer against a more significant spike in distress, he continued. Monthly numbers also show a rapid upward trend with 35,890 notices on U.S. properties in March, up 10.8% from 32,383 in February. While overall numbers are not rising alarms, Adams' report is the latest from Housing Research Group that signal home buyer distress increasing since late last year. The recent expiration of a foreclosure ban for borrowers enrolled in a Department of Veterans Affairs loss mitigation program was a likely contributor to rising number during the first quarter. Last week, the VA announced it would also cease accepting new enrollees as of later this spring, driving concerns of higher foreclosure numbers to come later this year. Foreclosure starts numbers 68,794 in the first quarter, accelerating by 11% from the prior 3 months and 2% annually. Meanwhile, bank repossessions headed up by 8% quarter over quarter to 9,691 units, but the total decreased 4% from 1 year earlier. The average amount of time taken to foreclose narrowed to an average of 671 days, down 12% from the previous quarter and 9% annually. The average completed foreclosure length has continually shortened since mid-2020. Delaware led all states with the highest rate of foreclosure filings at 1 in 761 units. It was followed by Illinois at 1 in 857 properties and Nevada at 1 in 874 properties. So, guys, foreclosures sounds like they're on the rise. It is just another reason why, you can't just sit back and just sit on the couch. You got to get out here and get to this bag because if you do that, it will put you in a situation where you don't have to, be in a foreclosure type of situation. Do what you have to do to keep your property, because as you continue to grow your property, you grow equity. By you growing equity, at some point you could take equity and invest in something that could potentially, help you to generate generational wealth. It could be taking equity to go buy other properties that you can rehab and flip or rehab and add to your portfolio so you can build up a nest egg monthly to handle whatever you need it to handle when it comes to your debt. It's really not that hard. You create entities to take care of your debt. The rich people been doing it forever. That's what they do. They're not going to work 9 to 5 and there's not enough, money at the end of the day to help you to pay all the things that you need paid. No. That ain't how that works. They build income streams that take care of the mortgages, take care of the vehicles, take care of the utilities. What part of that don't we understand? And I'm not just on here on my soapbox because I didn't always know this. I had to figure it out and understand it. So now that I do, you best to believe income streams is in play. Because it only makes sense. Why would I be dipping in my savings, dipping in my income to pay for things that I can create a business, income stream, whatever, to take care of those things? And if you got real estate and you want to build a portfolio, why would you not do that? Because your renters will pay for your real estate. You don't have to pay for it. And not only that, you can have your rentals to pay for your mortgage. Come on, y'all. I know they say the easiest way to keep things away from us, Black people, is to put it in a book. You have to start reading and understanding. We're older. My generation of people, my people, we're older. And I'm seeing a lot of people still doing the same things that we've always done. And we're being left behind. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna be here every Monday and Tuesday giving y'all the game until I start to receive feedback that Greg, what you told me helped me out significantly. I'm already starting to get some feedback from individuals, but it's not enough. I want to touch everybody in some form or fashion. I want to be able to give you some game, especially when it comes to real estate. That's my specialty. I can't give you a game on too many other things, but I definitely can give you some game on this because I've been doing it for a long time. And when I came into it, I knew zero. When I came into the game, I didn't even own a home. But once I got in the game, bought a first house, bought investment properties, and been doing it ever since. So it can be done. If I could do it, you definitely can do it. Period. All right, folks. Well, we're getting ready to take a pause for the cause. I'm about to bring up our correspondents, my guy, my gal, and they're getting ready to break down one of the biggest companies in the world, BlackRock. BlackRock is one of those companies that if you just go and see who BlackRock is and see all the different companies that they own, we had to do a deep dive because I just didn't know what it was that they did, but I just keep seeing them. I keep seeing the CEO, Larry Fink, on this and that, and he is the biggest of the big dogs. So they do a lot of different things. I'm not going to steal the thunder from my peeps because I like how they do our deep dives. I like how they break things down. But yeah, BlackRock is nothing to play with. So let me bring them into the mix. All right. Give me 1 second. I'm about to fade out, and I will be back for a breakdown of BlackRock.
Welcome to the deep dive. So you asked us to take a closer look at BlackRock. It's a name that, well, it just keeps coming up when you talk about the really big players in finance.
It definitely does. Hard to avoid.
Right. And the request was really about understanding, what makes them so influential. So we've gathered quite a bit of info and overview stuff from their own website.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today, welcome to the deep dive. So you asked us to take a closer look at BlackRock. It's a name that, well, it just keeps coming up when you talk about the really big players in finance.
It definitely does.
Welcome to the deep dive. So you asked us to take a closer look at BlackRock. It's a name that, well, just keeps coming up when you talk about the really big players in finance.
It definitely does. Hard to avoid.
Right. And the request was really about understanding, what makes them so influential. There's quite a bit of info and overview stuff from their own website.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today is basically to cut through all the noise and just pull out the most important bits.
Okay. Where should we start? The founding.
Now let's start there. Lay the foundation.
Okay. So BlackRock, it wasn't always this huge. It was founded back in 1988. The key founders were Larry Fink, Robert Escopedo, and Susan Wagner.
And Larry Fink is still the one in charge, right? The CEO.
That's correct. He's still the CEO. Their main headquarters, that's at 50 Hudson Yards in New York City. Pretty new spot.
And how many people are we talking about globally?
The latest number hard to avoid.
Right. And the request was really about understanding, what makes them so influential. So we've gathered quite a bit of info and overview
Yeah.
stuff from their own website.
Hmm.
Our mission today is basically to uh, cut through all the noise and just pull out the most important bits about this giant in the financial world.
Okay. Where should we start? The founding.
Yeah, let's start there, lay the foundation.
Okay. So BlackRock, it wasn't always this huge. It was founded back in 1988. The key founders were Larry Fink, Robert Escopedo, and Susan Wagner.
And Larry Fink is still the one in charge, right? The CEO.
It's correct. He's still the CEO. Their main headquarters, that's at 50 Hudson Yards in New York City. Pretty new spot.
And how many people are we talking about globally?
The latest number, I think, for 2024 is around 21,100 employees, give or take.
Okay. And the website, just for reference?
Oh, yeah. It's just www.blackrock.com. Pretty straightforward.
Got it. Okay. So founded 88, Fink still CEO, 21,000 people. But the thing everyone talks about is the scale, the money.
Yes. The AUM, assets under management, it's staggering.
Let's get into that because this is where it gets really interesting. What's the latest figure?
As of the first quarter of 2025, their AUM hit $11.6 trillion.
Trillion with a T. Yeah.
It's hard to even conceptualize that number. Can you put it in perspective somehow?
Well, one way to think about it, $11.6 trillion is roughly the size of Japan's entire economy. It's GDP, and Japan's the world's third largest economy.
Wow. Okay. That helps. That's immense economic weight.
And it's growing. Just a year before, Q1 2024, it was $10.47 trillion. So, quite a jump in just 1 year.
Is that just markets going up, or are they actually pulling in more money?
Good question. It's both, but they are definitely pulling in new money. In that same first quarter of 2025, they saw $83 billion in long-term net inflows. 83 billion new dollars coming in just 3 months.
Yep. It suggests investors, still have a lot of confidence putting their capital with BlackRock.
Okay, so the AUM is huge and growing. What about their own financials? Revenue, profit?
Also pretty strong in Q1 2025. Revenue was $5.3 billion. That's up 12% from the year before.
Or 12% growth. Solid.
Their net income, interestingly, dipped slightly. It was $1.5 billion, down 4%, but they said that was due to costs from acquisitions they made.
Okay. So acquisition costs pull down the official net income.
Right. But if you look at their adjusted profits, that paints maybe a clearer picture of the core business. Adjusted profit was $1.7 billion, which is actually up 20% year over year.
Up 20% adjusted. Okay. That's a significant jump. That kind of revenue and profit, it really highlights their power, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It speaks to, the strength of their business model, even when they're spending on things like acquisitions. They're a major earnings engine.
So with all that money, trillions under management, billions in revenue, how do they actually do it? What are the core parts of their business?
Well, there are several key pillars. First off, probably the most well-known for many people is iShares. They're a massive provider of ETFs.
Exchange-traded funds.
Right.
Lots of investors use those, like baskets of stocks.
Exactly. Baskets of stocks or bonds or other assets.
Right.
They trade on exchanges, just like stocks, offering diversification pretty easily. They've become, incredibly popular.
Okay, iShares. That makes sense. But I've also heard a lot about something called Aladdin. Sounds a bit, I don't know, mystical.
Yeah, the name is memorable. But Aladdin is actually, it's their powerhouse technology platform. It stands for Asset, Liability, Debt, and Derivative Investment Network.
Okay, less mystical, more technical. What does it do?
It's essentially a risk management and portfolio analytics system. It's incredibly sophisticated. BlackRock uses it internally, of course, but they also license it out to other major financial institutions.
Oh, really? So other big banks or asset managers use BlackRock's tech.
Yes, exactly. It helps users analyze their portfolios, model risks, manage complex investments, deal with regulatory reporting. It's kind of like the central nervous system for a lot of players in the financial world.
That's fascinating. So their influence isn't just the money they manage, but also the technology infrastructure they provide to others.
Precisely. It's a huge part of their influence that maybe isn't as visible as the AUM number.
Okay, so iShares ETFs, Aladdin tech platform. What else is core?
They also have BlackRock Solutions. This is more focused on providing specific financial risk management services and advisory work.
Right.
And then there's their push into private markets and infrastructure. This involves investing in things that aren't listed on public stock exchanges.
Like what kind of things?
Think big infrastructure projects, airports, toll roads, energy pipelines, that sort of thing.
Oh.
And also private equity, so investing directly in private companies.
Got it. So a pretty diverse set of business lines beyond just traditional stocks and bonds.
Very diverse. It allows them to cater to a whole spectrum of investment needs and risk appetites.
And who are the clients using all these services? Who trusts BlackRock with, well, $11.6 trillion? It can't be just one type of investor.
No, definitely not. The client base is incredibly broad. You have the really big institutional investors, think massive pension funds, managing retirement savings for millions.
Okay, like CalPERS or similar huge funds.
Exactly. And sovereign wealth funds, which manage the wealth of entire countries, then governments themselves, financial advisors who manage money for their clients.
And regular individual investors too. Can I buy into a BlackRock fund?
Absolutely. Individual investors are a key segment as well, often accessing BlackRock through those iShares ETFs or mutual funds. And this isn't just a US thing, remember, they operate globally.
Right, how global?
Their clients are spread across about 100 countries.
100 countries. Okay, that really drives home the reach.
Yeah, and they have the physical presence to back it up too. Around 70 offices in 30 different countries.
So boots on the ground in 30 countries, serving clients in 100.
That's the picture. And they're still expanding that reach. We mentioned Aladdin earlier. They just signed up their first client in South Korea for the platform.
Interesting. So ongoing growth, pushing into new markets.
Seems to be the plan. They've talked about opening more international offices too.
Now, when a company gets this big, this influential, it inevitably attracts scrutiny and maybe some controversy. What are the main areas where BlackRock faces discussion or criticism?
Yeah, that's definitely true. One really prominent area, especially in recent years, is ESG investing.
Environmental, social, and governance factors.
Exactly. BlackRock has talked a lot about integrating ESG considerations into their investment process. But this has drawn fire from, well, multiple directions.
Oh,
On one side, some critics feel they aren't moving fast enough or going deep enough with ESG integration, that it's more talk than action sometimes. But on the other side, particularly from some political circles in the US, certain states, for example, they face criticism for focusing on ESG at all. The argument there is that it might prioritize, social or political goals over maximizing financial returns for clients, which should be the primary duty.
so they're getting criticized for doing too little ESG and for doing too much ESG, depending on who you ask.
That's a pretty good summary of the tension, yes. It's led to some US states actually divesting funds from BlackRock. It's a complex debate with genuinely different views on the role of finance.
Right, a real balancing act, it seems. What other areas attract attention?
Well, just their sheer market influence is a big one. When you own significant chunks of so many publicly traded companies, questions naturally arise
Questions about what specifically?
about potential impacts on market competition or corporate governance. If one entity is a top shareholder in competing companies, what does that mean? Or how much sway do they have over company management? It's an ongoing discussion.
I see. The concentration of ownership issue.
Exactly. And related to that, sometimes their specific investments draw criticism. For instance, holdings in fossil fuel companies or in the defense and arms industry, or investments in companies that have been linked to alleged human rights issues in their supply chains or operations. These kinds of holdings often spark debate among advocacy groups and the public.
So, navigating the ethics and impacts of where trillions of dollars are invested is inherently complex and draws scrutiny.
Absolutely. It highlights the constant tension between financial objectives and broader societal concerns.
Okay, so that's the external view, the debates. How does BlackRock talk about itself? What's their own stated purpose?
If you go to their website, their stated purpose is to help more and more people experience financial well-being.
Financial well-being. Okay.
They really emphasize their role as a global asset manager, but also, crucially, as a fiduciary to their clients.
Fiduciary. That means they have a legal duty to act in their client's best financial interests.
Right. That's the core principle, yes. Putting client interests first. They highlight this fiduciary duty quite strongly.
And do they talk about the technology side, like Aladdin, in their self-description?
Oh, yes. They emphasize that they've been a leading provider of financial technology since, I think, 1999. They definitely see tech as fundamental to what they offer, not just an add-on.
So asset manager, fiduciary, and financial technology leader. That seems to be their core identity.
That's how they position themselves. And they frame it all as helping clients achieve their big financial goals, retirement, education, whatever it might be.
You mentioned earlier they offer a wide range of funds.
Yeah.
Can you give a bit more flavor of what's available?
Sure, it's a huge menu. You've got traditional mutual funds, you've got the iShares ETFs we talked about, and also closed-end funds.
And these cover different types of investments.
Oh, yeah, across pretty much all asset classes: stocks, bonds, real estate, infrastructure, commodities, you name it. They aim to have something for everyone, basically.
Any specific examples that might ring a bell for listeners?
Well, a very common one would be something like the iShares Core S&P 500 ETF. Just gives broad exposure to the main US stock index.
Right, a basic building block for many portfolios.
Exactly. Or on the retirement side, they have things like the LifePath Index Retirement Funds. These are target date funds, meaning they automatically shift the investment mix to become more conservative as you get closer to retirement age.
Ah, okay. The set it and forget it type option for retirement savers.
Kind of, yeah. Designed to simplify long-term planning. So those examples just show the range from broad market access to very specific goal-oriented solutions.
It seems they also put effort into providing like market commentary and educational stuff. It's not just selling products.
That's correct. They do invest quite a bit in producing content. They have weekly market commentary offering their take on current events.
Mm-hmm.
They also have the BlackRock Investment Institute, which puts out more in-depth global outlooks and research papers looking at longer-term trends.
Okay, so analysis for different levels of interest.
Right. And they also provide basic educational content explaining investment concepts, retirement planning basics, trying to boost financial literacy.
Do they have other channels for this, like social media or anything?
Yeah, they're active on various platforms, and they even have their own podcast, actually. It's called The Bid.
Ah, the bid.
Yeah.
So they're using multiple ways to get their perspectives out there.
Definitely seems to be part of the strategy, engaging with investors and the public through content.
And we can't really talk about BlackRock without mentioning Larry Fink's influence again. His annual letter is always a big deal, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The chairman's letter to investors is widely read and dissected in the financial world every year. It sets a tone.
What were some of the key themes in his latest one, the 2025 letter?
He talked a lot about rethinking retirement, the challenges and potential solutions, also about expanding access to capital markets, arguing it's key for, broader economic prosperity. Building a more prosperous future was a central idea.
So big picture themes about the future of finance and the economy.
Very much so. His letters often tackle those major structural trends, and he comments on more immediate things too. Like recently, I saw commentary from him dated April 2nd talking about navigating current market volatility and the whole issue of tariff policies.
So providing real-time perspective as well shows their ongoing engagement with market dynamics.
Exactly. It underscores how relevant their views are considered to be on these evolving global economic issues.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Founding, massive scale, core businesses like iShares and Aladdin, global reach, the controversies, their self-perception, offerings, and Fink's perspective.
Mhm.
Let's try to boil it down. What are the absolute key takeaways for our listener from this deep dive?
I think number one has to be the sheer, almost unimaginable scale, that $11.6 trillion AUM figure and the global reach across 100 plus countries.
Hmm.
It's just fundamental to understanding BlackRock.
Right, scale is paramount. What else?
Second, I'd say recognizing their dual nature. They're not just an asset manager. They're also a major financial technology provider through Aladdin, and that platform underpins a lot of the wider industry.
Good point. The tech piece is crucial.
Mhm.
And third,
Third, just being aware of the ongoing discussions and the different viewpoints surrounding them, especially on ESG and their investments in sensitive sectors. It's not about taking sides, but understanding that their size and actions inevitably generate debate about their role and responsibilities.
scale,
Hmm.
the dual role of asset manager plus tech provider, and the ongoing debates around their influence and choices. That sums it up well.
Yeah, I think those capture the essence.
Okay, that brings us to a final thought then for you, our listener, to maybe chew on. When you really think about one company managing over $11 trillion, what does that concentration of financial power actually mean?
Yeah.
What are the ripple effects when an entity that large makes investment decisions, not just for the global economy, but potentially for individual investors like us? And how do all those criticisms and different perspectives we discussed about ESG, about market influence, how do they actually shape the future? The future of investing, the future of what we consider responsible investing.
Big questions.
Definitely big questions. It's worth considering the deeper implications of having such massive players in the financial system and what role we want them to play in society. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Okay, we back.